Hi, my name is Walker Musso, and in 2015 I was involved in a fatal car crash. Before I get to the details of that crash, I'd like to share with you a little backstory. In 2015 I graduated high school with a baseball scholarship and academic opportunities. I had a couple of opportunities with Apple and Intel and HP. About a week before I was slotted to go to college, I went to my little brother and asked him, do you want to go get some ice cream sandwiches before I go? I'm going to feel bad, you're going to be the last brother left at home. So after me and my brother got ice cream sandwiches, we decided to go home, and it was just about midnight when I decided that I wanted to have a little adrenaline rush and push my car. I thought to myself, I'm going to college, I'm not going to have my car for some time now, so let's just see what it can do. And so I pushed it out and started going fast, and I got that adrenaline rush, and that's what I was looking for. But unfortunately, two people pulled out in front of me, a couple in their 30s, and I crashed into them, killing them on impact. When I got out of the car, my first instinct was to make sure everyone was okay. I could hear my brother in the passenger seat making some sort of noise, so I decided to get out of the car and check on the other people. And I got out of my car and I'm running around my car. I got about halfway in front of the hood when their car burst into flames and essentially exploded, sending a big fireball into the air, just like in the movies. Well, at that point, I knew there was nothing I could do to help them. So I turned back to my brother and I had to try to find him in the car. I couldn't see him. There was so much glass and airbags everywhere. There was still a lot of smoke in the air from the fire and from my vehicle. So I was digging through, and I eventually found him, and I figured out that sound that he was making. It was the sound of him choking on his own blood. That was just one of two sounds that night that I'll never forget. The second sound from that night was that blood-curdling scream that my mom let out when I called her and told her what had happened. That my brother was on the way to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, and that I was on the way to another hospital with just a broken wrist. The extent of my brother's injuries were a broken pelvis, a broken femur, bruised bladder, bruised lungs. He had broken somewhere in his right arm, and he had knocked back his front teeth and bitten through his lip, underneath his lip. Following that crash, I was in the ambulance, and I was on the way to the hospital, and it started to set in that I might have just killed my own brother. And I pray to God that you never ever have to feel that kind of shame or guilt, because it weighs on you, and it still weighs on me to this day. Following the crash, I was told to go to college, so I tried to go to college, and when I got there, everything seemed fine for about a month, and then that's when the crash started settling in and my mental health started declining. After about 3 months of college, suffering so poorly that I started to see therapy. And even though I was in therapy, my mental health still declined to a point where I was formally diagnosed with clinical anxiety, clinical depression, PTSD, and suicidal thoughts. And so following that, I spent about the next 3.5 years in therapy, almost 3 days a week, going and trying to figure something out, trying to make some sense of all of this. And when that came to an end, I got some tools that I can now use to manage some of those mental health issues I had. But I've been there, I've been in that dark place, and I promise it's not one you want to go to. And if I can help prevent one person from ever going to that place, I will. So following my college experience, I was formally charged with 2 counts of involuntary vehicular manslaughter and 1 count of endangerment of the health or life of a child, because my brother was 15 when the crash happened. So I had to go through the court process for approximately 7 years. It took a while because of COVID shutdowns and because of other situations, just schedules not lining up with attorneys. I spent that long in court, and that weighs on you too. When you have these kinds of things where court is continued, it's usually continued to the next month. So when that happens, I now have to go every month and look the victim's family in the face and know the impact of my choices. So I was reminded of that choice once a month. So following that, I now have all of these scars on my wrist, my thumb, my knuckles. I'm reminded every time I write or type of that choice, that 30 seconds of adrenaline for 2 people's lives. I don't get to take that back. When this video ends, or when these events end, or when these classes end, I don't get to go back. I don't get to just forget about it and just let it wash right off of me. It doesn't end there. It walks out the door with me. I carry it every day of my life. So in 2022, I pled guilty to all of my charges and was sentenced to 5 years, 4 months in prison, suspended on 11 years of probation. Now, one thing you may not know is that with probation, you can be remanded up to a year in county jail. So that's what happened to me. And when I was remanded, I had about a month to get my affairs in order, and I had to go and surrender myself, which I did. So from April of 2022 to October of 2022, I was in county jail. Right now in California, it is half-time served. So in that case, I did 6 months and it was seen as a year. I hope that it doesn't take getting to jail or getting in one of these crashes or hurting someone to realize that these choices do lead down this path. It's not the first time or the second time. It's usually after making that choice repeatedly. And people think that they are invincible once they do these things several times. I don't think that anymore. And I pray to God that you don't think that when you're driving, because at the end of the day, we all just want to get home safe and see our loved ones. So the next time you're thinking of driving fast, recklessly, or doing these takeovers, think about your family and friends and how they want to see you at home or out having food with them, or whatever you do. So, in the end, please respect the road and save it for the track. Thank you.